the other side. And the media is finally picking up on that. So again, thank you for that question. I believe Canadians are looking for a change.
Yeah.
The honourable member for Abbotsford will have 3 minutes and 10 seconds when we return to this matter, and he'll have 3 minutes and 10 seconds worth of questions coming back to him when we retake this. Statements by members, déclaration de député. The honourable member for Ottawa-Vanier, l'honorable député d'Ottawa-Vanier.
Mr. Speaker, a great friend, mentor, and defender of Franco-Ontarian culture and the National Capital Region, left us suddenly last week after heart failure. Pierre was a man with a big heart, an even bigger personality, and who embraced the motto Carpe Diem. He was a manager in the Official Languages Commission for 12 years, and then he was Director General of the Association of Professional Executives of the Public Service of Canada. His greatest impact was his engagement in his community, his passion for social justice and human rights, and his interest in community development in the National Capital Region. He was co-founder of the Franco-Ontarian Festival, president of ACFO Ottawa, and a member of the Board of Governors of the University of Ottawa. Thank you, Pierre, for your contribution, your commitment, your remarkable work, and your joie de vivre. We will miss you. I give my condolences to his spouse, Deb Spur, his family, and his loved ones. Pierre, we will miss you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, consider two families. In one, a single income earner makes $75,000. In another, two income earners make $38,000 each. The family with a single income in this case pays more tax even though they are making less money. That's not fair. The government has tried to justify their unfair tax changes by claiming that the current rules give a mechanism for splitting income to some couples, a mechanism which does not exist for wage earners. But this difference is the result of a Liberal decision to do away with income splitting for parents in the first place. At the time of the last election, all parents could split their income, regardless of how they earned it. And that was fair. The Liberals are now using a situation that they created to justify their unfair tax changes. But families understand that income splitting is always fair because it reflects the reality that families share their income and that families who earn the same income should pay the same amount of tax. Right. If the government wants a fairer tax system, then they should bring back income splitting for all parents.
The honourable member for Guelph.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm thrilled today to share a new social innovation from my constituency in Guelph. It's called Rotary Local Lager, a beer with a cause. The Rotary Club of Guelph and the Rotary Club of Peterborough have teamed up with Guelph's Wellington Brewery for a special brew that will help raise money for local and international causes. And soon, other Ontarians will be able to feel charitable about picking up a few Rotary Local Lagers, as 50 cents of each purchase will go to Rotary projects, including 10 cents that will go specifically to Rotary International water projects. This is an innovation that all Guelphites can be proud of, as the Rotary Club of Guelph said, is setting this world first for Rotary. The Rotary Local Lager has been described as a crisp, refreshing blonde, so besides feeling good about your purchase, I can tell you that it's going to taste good too. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As Canadians consider their next beer purchase, I encourage them to select a beer with a cause, Rotary Local Lager.
Cheers!
L'honorable député.
The honourable member for Abitibi-Témiscamingue. Mr. Speaker, today thousands of men and women from Abitibi-Témiscamingue are preparing to head into the woods as hunting season begins. Moose hunting is an important activity in Abitibi-Témiscamingue, and some 24,000 permits are granted every year. Many villages really depend on hunting and fishing. Last Saturday, I once again attended the Hunters' Mass in Moffat. This is a 35-year-old tradition, and it's an homage to nature, and it transforms the local church into a gathering place for hunters, and even for a few beavers and moose. There are also a number of children preparing for their first hunting experience, an experience that I hope will leave them with an appreciation of this noble activity, which has been part of a tradition for First Nations people of this country for millennia. So I'd like to take this opportunity to wish all hunters a happy hunting season, a safe and enjoyable experience in the forest, and of course I'd like to remind everyone that you should never mix alcohol with firearms. I invite all hunters to use their eagle eye and to aim carefully, because maybe you can kill 2 moose with 1 shot.
For Mississauga Centre.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize a member of my Mississauga Centre Youth Council. Alice Jung volunteers with the Association in Defense of the Wrongly Convicted. When I first met Alice, she told me that in 2014, 80 organizations from several countries came together to support the creation of the International Wrongful Conviction Day. Wrongful Conviction Day is designated to recognize the tremendous personal, social, and legal costs associated with wrongful criminal convictions. It is also devoted to educate the public on the causes, consequences, and complications associated with wrongful convictions. Several jurisdictions have already proclaimed October 2nd as Wrongful Conviction Day. Alice organized a petition that calls on Parliament to do the same. Mr. Speaker, our justice system occasionally makes mistakes. We need to acknowledge that. And with Alice's energy and passion, I look forward to a day where we no longer have wrongful conviction of innocence.
The honourable member for Saskatoon Grasswood.
Mr. Speaker, it is with deep sadness that I rise to pay tribute to a Saskatoon Grasswood constituent, Mr. Bruce Gordon, who passed away just last Friday. Bruce served and protected our community for 28 and a half years with the Saskatoon Police Service. Upon his retirement, he attended the University of Saskatchewan and the College of Law, where he received a law degree. Bruce was an outstanding volunteer and has given much of his time to many organizations. Bruce also was a former captain of the Saskatoon Blades hockey organization. He actually dropped the puck for the home opener on September 22nd. He was also an Ironman, heavily involved in the CrossFit community. Just days after Bruce officially became a lawyer, he was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Recently, hundreds of people filled the city's Avalon Park to take part in an event named Be Like Bruce, which was organized by the CrossFit community. To his wife, Chris, and his family, my deepest condolences.
The honourable member for Oakville North Burlington.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The work of reconciliation with Indigenous peoples is one of the most critical issues facing Canada today. That's why I'm so pleased to sponsor my summer intern Miriam Manna's e-petition. Miriam worked with local Indigenous leader Stephen Paquette to develop a petition to redesign the Canadian Citizenship Guide and Exam to acknowledge Indigenous treaty rights, require applicants to answer a question about the traditional territories where they may currently inhabit, and educate new Canadians on residential schools and the legacy of colonialism. The petition has already garnered tremendous support not only in my riding of Oakville North Burlington, but across Canada. The e-petition is open until December 15th and can be found by searching petition 1228 on petitions.ourcommons.ca. I encourage all Canadians to support this petition as we continue on the road to reconciliation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Bay of Quinte.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I have a message of encouragement to the youngest members of the Bay of Quinte area. When we are young, it can be hard to find ways to be heard and connect with others who share our unique vision of the world. However, your insights and fresh perspectives are the world's best hope for the future. I have witnessed firsthand the energy, passion, and commitment of young people in this country and continue to be inspired. I'm especially proud of the Bay of Quinte region for organizing their first ever Youth Summit held this past Friday. The Youth to Youth Summit succeeded in engaging over 150 young people with local dignitaries, community agencies, and business professionals on issues of priority to our region. Youth Summit members are ready to make positive differences in our community by stepping up their involvement. We have a lot to learn from the youth of today. I encourage all young Canadians to help us find solutions and dismantle roadblocks that hinder forward momentum or positive change in your lives and lives of others. Continue to dream big, speak up, and be the agents of change. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, it's with great emotion that I would like to pay tribute to an exceptional man who left us too soon, my friend, Michel Bourget. We became friends over 30 years ago. Over the years, through his art and his passion for photography, he immortalized many unique, magical, and precious moments and captured family portraits for hundreds of families in the region of Quebec. A master photographer who ran his own studio from 1978 onwards, he was a role model as an artist and a mentor for aspiring photographers throughout the region. On behalf of my entire family, I'd like to offer my condolences to Muriel, his wife, and also to his children, Sonia, Dominique, Claudine, and their spouses and children. Michel was a loving husband and a very devoted father and grandfather. He captured so many of our fondest memories, and now it's our turn to keep our memory of him in our hearts. Rest in peace, my friend. The Honourable Member for Fredericton.
A teacher, a mentor, and a supporter of everything positive and everything right, Brian Carty was remembered by his sons as a friend to anyone when they needed one. Brian passed away peacefully on September 26th following a car accident 3 days earlier. The Fredericton community and his students and fellow faculty and staff at St. Thomas University, where he taught in the School of Social Work, mourn the loss of his uplifting personality and his big laugh and smile. Brian also worked as an employment counsellor and volunteered with Canada World Youth, YMYWCA, and the Fredericton Community Living Society. He loved music and shared it at every opportunity. An ardent supporter of the Harvest Jazz and Blues Festival, he could be found every year front left stage wearing his iconic purple vest. Our thoughts and prayers go out to his sons Alexander and Ian, partner Anne, mother June, siblings John, Wendy, and David, their families, and all those who loved him dearly.
The Honourable Member for Eglinton Lawrence.
Mr. Speaker, every day I'm impressed by the youth in my riding. They're smart, diverse, talented, and hopeful, but far too often they struggle to find work. And so we did something about it. I got on the phone with our local partners, including Toronto Community Housing, Toronto Employment and Social Services, COSTI, the Lion Network, and the Career Foundation, and together we put on an amazing hiring event. We pulled employers from financing to tech to government and social services. We had CV workshops, coaching, and on-site interviews. And at the end of it, I'm proud to say that we successfully connected 35 exceptional young people with employers. They're now one step further on their career path. This
event was a response to discussions that I had with young professionals in my riding who come from priority communities. I'd also like to particularly thank Minister Haidu.
The Career Foundation will be receiving nearly $1.7 million over 2 years so that they can continue their excellent work. Mr. Speaker, I will continue working hard on initiatives like this so that every single young person in my riding who wants a good job has one.
I just want to remind the honourable members that even during statements we're not allowed to mention other members' names. We mention them by their position or their riding. The honourable member for Edmonton Manning.
Well, Mr. Speaker, as Thanksgiving approaches, we are reminded of everything we have to be thankful for as Canadians. This past Saturday, I was saddened and outraged to hear of the cowardly terrorist attack that took place in my hometown of Edmonton, leaving 5 people injured, including an Edmonton police officer. As the city still struggles to come to terms with this attack and our freedom and way of life, I was touched to see that one of the victims on Saturday's attack, Constable Michael Chernick, was honored by the Edmonton Oilers on Wednesday evening. Mr. Speaker, I think I can speak for everyone in this House when I say terrorist ideologies have no place in our great country. As we pause this weekend, I encourage everyone to thank our courageous first responders and all those involved in stopping the suspect. From my family to yours, happy Thanksgiving.
The honourable member for Parkdale High Park.
In my riding of Parkdale High Park, residents are concerned about how to travel to work or school in a way that's quick and environmentally sound. My constituents have told me that any strategy to reduce gridlock and our dependence on cars must include investments in public transit and active transport. Mr. Speaker, I wholeheartedly agree, because these kinds of investments not only get people moving, they reduce GHG emissions and contribute to healthier living. Mr. Speaker, the advocacy of my constituents has paid off. We're investing billions in transit, including in Toronto, $500 million for TTC repair, and $333 million in the Finch West light rail. Millions nationally are also going to support active transport. In Parkdale High Park, this means the expansion of the Western Rail Path cycling route. It also means the creation of 50 new bike share stations, 7 new stations right in my riding. So I have a challenge for the good folks of Roncesvalles, High Park, Bloor West, Parkdale, Dundas West, and Storen Park. Next time you're thinking about a commute, leave the car at home and hop on a bike share. In Toronto, you'll probably reach your destination faster, and your doctor and our planet will thank you for it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Windsor-Tecumseh.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My riding of Windsor-Tecumseh and surrounding Windsor and Essex County is, of course, well known for our expertise in the auto industry. So it's no wonder that we appreciate the small gears that turn our big gears of the economy. Yes, I'm talking about our vibrant entrepreneurial innovation and small business. From Walkerville, Riverside, Pilette Village, Ford City, and the Tecumseh business areas to the Windsor-Essex Development Commission and the Chamber of Commerce. Wherever you'll go, you'll find a supportive entrepreneurial spirit for small and medium-sized businesses, providing jobs, growth, and development within our communities. Restaurants, artisans, craftspeople, shop owners, service providers of every imaginable kind add value to our communities that go well beyond the economic. I'm proud to salute these important members of our community, just as I'm proud to belong to a caucus that recognizes the vital role they play in helping to provide prosperity for all of us. Thank you.
The honourable member for Carleton.
Mr. Speaker, the Miracle Marnie Foundation is a new organization that seeks to increase funding for childhood cancer research. It's named after the brave Marnie Genioli and was founded by her father, Thomas. At 2 years old, Marnie was diagnosed with one of the rarest and least understood cancers in the world, embryonal tumors with multilayer rosettes. Since then, she's been through 3 tumor removal surgeries, 3 months of chemo, and 3 stem cell transplants in Toronto, and 33 painful rounds of radiation at CHEO here in Ottawa. But only 4% of cancer research funding makes its way to childhood cancer treatment and research. Thomas and the Miracle Marnie Foundation want to change that because 4% is not enough for our children. They are asking for a meeting with the Minister of Health. I look forward to bringing Thomas and Marnie to meet with the Minister of Health to discuss how we can work together to fight all forms of childhood cancer so that children like Marnie will suffer no more. Thank you.
The honourable member for Louis Hébert.
Mr. Speaker, I want to take the opportunity today, as we're about to leave Ottawa for Thanksgiving weekend, to wish all Canadians and all my friends and colleagues from both sides of the aisle a very happy Thanksgiving. It's an opportunity to rejoice with family and friends, and also to take some time to give thanks for the blessings that we've received in the past year. It's
also an opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to think of those who are less fortunate, those who have suffered and those who are suffering. Given the tragedies that our brothers and sisters in Edmonton have experienced recently, as well as our American friends, as we prepare to go home and give thanks, I want to include those people in my thoughts and prayers, along with everyone else that life has made to suffer in the last year.
Oral questions. Question orale. The honourable member for Carleton.
Yesterday, the Prime Minister claimed the Energy East was cancelled because oil prices dropped. I have the letter here from TransCanada, the project's sponsor. It doesn't mention a word about oil prices, but it does say, quote, notwithstanding these efforts, there remains a substantial uncertainty around the scope, timing, and costs associated with the regulatory review of the projects. After completing its review of these factors, and the associated costs and implicated with the regulatory process, they decided to withdraw the project. Did the Prime Minister not know that the reason that the project was cancelled was because of his regulatory obstacles? Or did he know, and did he mislead the House?
The Honourable Minister of the Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, there has been all kinds of commentary over the last 24 hours. And some of the commentary includes this comment by the C.D. Howe Institute: basic economics, not regulation, ended the Energy East pipeline, dethroned by the simple loss of its business case by the decline in global oil prices, since 2014. Terence Corcoran, writing in the National Post this morning, said that economic realities killed the energy
Before we go on to the honourable member for Carleton for the next question, I just want to remind the honourable members that I'm as interested in hearing the questions as I am the answers. And with the chatter going back, I'll call it chatter, going back and forth, I'm having a hard time. So if you can just take into consideration the Speaker's feelings and allow him to hear the questions and the answers. The honourable member for Carleton.
Well, this is what the company says. The existing and likely future delays resulting from the regulatory process, the associated costs, implications, and the increasingly challenging issues and obstacles facing the project has led the applicant to not proceed further with the project. That's the company. Now, the honourable member said yesterday, we won, they lost. Well, you know who won? The dictators in Saudi Arabia and Venezuela, who will continue to flood Canadian markets with their oil. But Canadian workers lost. Why is it that this government is on the side of foreign dictators and not Canadian workers?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, I'm a little bit perplexed by this line of questioning. What does that imply? That there should not be a Made in Canada regulatory process? That environmental standards should not be part of the Canadian regulatory position? That Indigenous partnership and meaningful consultation and accommodation should not be a part of the Canadian system? And by the way, why don't we talk about all the jobs that have been created by the pipelines approved by this government? Why don't we talk about Evraz in Regina, creating all of that steel to service those pipelines?
The honourable member for Carleton.
Well, Mr. Speaker, yesterday the government refused to answer whether or not the finance minister has been involved in discussions around the tax haven in Barbados. We learned this week through filings that had been quietly made by the company Morneau Chappelle that the finance minister's billion-dollar family business has set up a subsidiary in that tax haven, meaning that his company will only pay 2.5% tax on monies that are earned there, while small businesses will pay tax rates as high as 73% under the unfair Liberal tax changes. So, I ask again, has the finance minister absented himself from any discussions related to the tax haven in Barbados?
The Honourable
National Revenue
Minister. We are taking action to fight tax avoidance and evasion. A historic amount of $1 billion from the past two budgets have shown the importance that we place on dealing with aggressive tax avoidance and tax evasion. Our plan is yielding results. We are on the right track to recover nearly $25 billion, Mr. Speaker. There have been 627 cases transferred to criminal investigation, 268 warrants conducted, 78 convictions. Let me be clear. The net is tightening.
Louis Saint-Laurent.
The honourable member for Louis Saint-Laurent. It's crazy what we've heard over the past week when each time that the member for Carleton has repeated that the Minister of Finance's company had a subsidiary in Barbados, which is a tax haven. It makes no sense, Mr. Speaker, because the Minister of has taken steps to take $250 million out of the pockets of Canadians. So the question is a very clear one. Will light be shed on this situation? Will the Minister of Finance step aside from these discussions when they took place? The Honourable Minister, the government is committed to deal with people committing tax fraud and to take legal action. I'm proud of the leadership that we have taken internationally, Mr. Speaker. Our cooperation between various administrations with the exchange of tax information is an integral part of our system. The honourable member for Louis Saint-Laurent. Now, twice the minister has repeated the same answer, but the question is a clear one, Mr. Speaker. We're talking about Morneau Chappelle and the Minister of Finance. Never in her answer does she refer to either. Does the minister, for whom I have a great deal of respect, understand that it's important to shed light on the situation? Will she conduct an investigation to determine whether the Minister of Finance stepped aside when the issue of Morneau Chapelle and the tax haven were discussed? Mr. Speaker, I'm surprised by the question from our colleagues opposite who were in government for 10 years, and according to a former minister, they didn't make it a priority at the time. They didn't make tax avoidance and tax evasion a priority. Our government has put almost $1 billion into this, dealing with this issue, and we're on the road to recovering nearly $25 billion. We are working for Canadians, Mr. Speaker, unlike our colleagues opposite.
Député d'Abitibi.
The honourable member for Abitibi, Bay James, Nunavik, EU.
Mr. Speaker, 8 months after Canada was found liable for failing to protect survivors of the 60s scoop from losing their cultural identity, the Liberals are finally settling with survivors. Unfortunately, a lot of work is still needed. Survivors have said that money alone cannot compensate for what they lost. So will the government learn from this lesson and stop fighting First Nations children, for instance, or settle other outstanding claims like the experimental Eskimos?
The Honourable Minister for Crown Indigenous Relations.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member for his question, his ongoing advocacy for Indigenous children across this country. I think this morning to have the agreement in principle is an important first step. We have lots more work to do to be able to make sure that all childhood litigation is dealt with at the table with reasonable settlements, but we also want to work with the member to make sure that with the Minister of Indigenous Services that the present child welfare system is totally overhauled so that children are not removed from their communities.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Member for Abitibi, Bay James, Nunavik, EU.
Mr. Speaker, on this very subject this morning, the minister said, I don't know what people were thinking, so I'd like to ask her, because unfortunately discrimination continues against Indigenous children as we speak, Mr. Speaker. The Liberals are not complying with 3 orders from the Human Rights Tribunal. Will the government withdraw from this 60s scoop? Will the government put an end to systemic discrimination against Indigenous children?
Relations. Oh, sorry.
Mr. Speaker, I'm very pleased as the Minister of Indigenous Services to address this issue and to speak in agreement with my colleague about the absolute necessity of making sure that we attain equity for children. Every child in this country should be able to grow up knowing that they can live with their family, live in a house that is adequate, have access to a good quality education and health care. We are working with our partners to make sure that we bring equity and justice so that every Canadian child will know that they will grow up having real and fair opportunities to thrive.
The
Honourable Member for Hochelaga. This morning, the International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons received the Nobel Peace Prize for its work promoting a ban on nuclear weapons. Thanks to their efforts, nuclear weapons are illegal. More than 120 countries approved the treaty ban, but Canada still remains on the sidelines. Earlier this spring, the government voted against our motion, urging it to participate in a ban on nuclear weapons. When will Canada be signing it?
Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our objective is nuclear disarmament, and we are taking necessary steps to address the treaty. It was negotiated without the holders of nuclear weapons, so it will not eliminate any nuclear weapons. Bear in mind that in 2016, Canada brought together 169 states to adopt a resolution on fissile materials. These are concrete steps, and this is what we are doing as Canadians.
Liberal government's excuses for not signing the nuclear ban treaty are ridiculous, and they know it. Canada's absence at the nuclear ban negotiations was shameful. This is a crucial moment. At what point will this government stop taking its instructions from nuclear powers like the United States and start recognizing what the Nobel Committee and most of the world already know, that nuclear weapons are illegal? When will Canada grow a spine and sign the treaty?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, this government remains committed to seeing a world free from nuclear weapons, and global disarmament is certainly our goal. The UN treaty that was negotiated was done so without the participation of nuclear weapon states, meaning that it will not disarm a single nuclear weapon. Our position is the same as our NATO allies, such as Germany and Norway. And remember, in 2016, Canada rallied 159 states to help pass a treaty to see a fissile material cutoff. This is real and concrete work, and I hope the member opposite will support us in that effort.
The Honourable Member for Portage-Lisgar.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sure that the Finance Minister is looking forward to a relaxing Thanksgiving weekend at some fancy location while he ponders all of the tax savings he's getting with his family fortune being sheltered in the Barbados. I'm also certain my local farmers and local small business owners will not be so relaxed. They are worried sick because of these tax changes, unanswered questions and uncertainty. How can the Finance Minister protect his own family fortune while people are being taxed, people who are creating jobs and who are the middle class? Does the Finance Minister not understand how hypocritical these tax changes are?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are honouring a commitment we made to the middle class Canadians to bring more fairness to the tax system. We are a government that listens and consults. We listen to farmers from across the country. And I can reassure my colleague, and I invite her to reassure farmers in her riding, that we will always stand behind Canadian farmers. We want to ensure that the model of the family farm is preserved and maintained, and we will ensure that farms that employ family members can continue to do so. We are here to support small and medium-sized businesses, farmers, and we want a better tax fairness.
Leader.
Well, unfortunately, my farmers, our farmers, are not reassured. That's because the Finance Minister has been sitting in his ivory tower for the last 2 months, dismissing and demeaning Canadians' real concerns. How cold-hearted the Liberals have become. All because they need more money for their out-of-control spending. Ahead of Thanksgiving, Mr. Speaker, can the Finance Minister please give hardworking businesses, hardworking small businesses and farmers some good news and tell them that they have abandoned this cold-hearted, mean-spirited, hypocritical tax grab?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, if we want good news for Canadians, for business owners, it's 400,000 jobs we've created in the last 2 years. It's the fastest growth in GDP in the last 15 years. That's because we've had a plan from the get-go that's working. We're helping the middle class, we're helping small business owners, and we'll keep at it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable député.
The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lauvinière. Mr. Speaker, the Minister's finance motto is do as I say, not as I do. He's taxing small businesses in Canada, but placing profits from his family fortune in a tax haven in Barbados. What nerve! Mr. Speaker, it's as the Minister of National Revenue said, the net is tightening. On Morneau Chapelle, can the Minister of National Revenue confirm that she will open an investigation into the personal ties of the Minister of Finance with the tax havens? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Minister of Finance withdrew from the corporation before entering politics, and he is in full compliance. If the member wants to talk about the minister, I can say that I'm very proud to work for a Minister of Finance who believes it's important to decrease inequities in the system, who is taking action due to the lack of action by the Harper government. I'm very proud to work for this minister who has reduced taxes for 9 million Canadians, who came out with a benefit for children to lift 300,000 children out of poverty. I'm proud of that.
April and her family own a trucking business within my riding in Alberta. They have 4 children who have worked for the company since they could walk. Their older sons drive truck full-time, their daughters work in the office, and the youngest helps clean up the trucks. Well, saving a little money here and there, they've managed to put aside some university savings for the children. But now the Liberals' tax changes are actually putting this under threat. Yep. How is it fair that Morneau Chapelle can use a Barbados company in order to avoid taxes? Meanwhile, the Finance Minister robs university savings from April's daughters in order to pay for the Liberals' out-of-control spending. How's that fair?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to reassure my colleague that we listen to Canadians. We are going to be putting forth proposals for tax fairness to put more fairness in the system. We will ensure that we're going to do things right to keep a climate that is good for our businesses. We want to avoid extra burdens, fiscal burdens. We will focus on ensuring that intergenerational transfers are not affected. We will continue to work for greater tax fairness in this country. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Murray and Lorraine, in my riding of Bow River, say they couldn't afford to both keep the family farm operation and contribute to RSPs, so they plan to use their farmland as a retirement income. They want to know why the Liberals have, as they put it, changed the rules at the end of our game and jeopardized their retirement plans. Well, the finance minister's family fortune and Barbados operation won't even be touched. How is that possibly fair to Murray and Lorraine?
It's not. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to reassure the member, we've always mentioned it, we've always said it, our intention is for these changes not to be retroactive. We have listened to Canadians from coast, to farmers, to fishers, and the guiding principles as we review the comments that we've heard from Canadians is to make sure that we keep supporting small businesses, keep a low tax rate for small businesses, make sure that we support the family farm model, which we've always supported, so that intergenerational transfer is not impacted, that family members can continue to work on the farm. We'll always stand behind our entrepreneur. We'll always stand behind farmers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chambers of Commerce in the country and accountants agree this infamous tax reform is unacceptable and counterproductive for entrepreneurs. Jobs in the middle class will be lost, Mr. Speaker, and companies will be taxed at a rate of 73%. What's worse, Mr. Speaker, the company held by the Minister of Finance, Morneau Chappelle, as well as the Prime Minister's trust won't be affected. Will this government stop mocking the middle class and stop stifling SMEs which create jobs in this country? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We put forth proposals for greater tax fairness because there are some inequities that currently exist. For some Canadians, the most wealthy, it's possible to have access to advantages that the vast majority the citizens we represent don't have access to. And that is what we are addressing, greater fairness and tax fairness for the middle class.
From Jack Layton to Jagmeet Singh, New Democrats have always stood firmly against Canada joining the U.S. ballistic missile defense system. It's an extremely expensive system, yet still unreliable, and its continued expansion risks launching a new global nuclear arms race. On Wednesday, the Conservatives called on the government to change their position and join the American ballistic missile defense system. So far, the Liberals have only said they're not ruling it out. So will the Liberals stand with New Democrats today on the side of peace and disarmament, or will they adopt the reckless and dangerous policy of the Conservatives?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Defence. The security of Canadians and defence of North America are of the utmost importance for the Canadian forces and for our government. Our new defence policy acknowledges the threat of ballistic missiles and the need to work closely with our ally, the U.S., to face the threats we face. As part of NORAD modernization, we intend to take a look at the threats facing North America in all areas. The Honourable Member for Abitibi-Témiscamingue. Mr. Speaker, seasonal workers in New Brunswick are very worried about the arrival of winter because the Liberals have abandoned their promise to fix the problem of the EI black hole. Workers and their families could end up in the middle of the cold winter with no income. What did the Liberals say? Well, cross your fingers and hope the unemployment rate will increase so that you can qualify. That's a ridiculous way to think. When will the Liberals show some sense, common sense, and respect their promise to fix this problem with the black hole once and for all?
Carried to the Minister of Families.
Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to ensuring that Canadians get the support when they need it from the EI system. That's why we put in a series of changes to make access to the benefits much faster. We have also made changes to make sure that people who are in gapped employment or working seasonally can work and receive benefits in an appropriate way so they get the benefits and the support they need to participate in the economy. We will continue to work with stakeholders to fine-tune solutions. One of the challenges we have is a good one. With a buoyant economy, with thousands of more new jobs, EI premiums are changing as their benefits, but we're working very hard to make sure seasonal employees are treated properly.
The honourable member for Stormont Dundas, South Glengarry.
Mr. Speaker, I hosted a town hall meeting in my riding Tuesday evening that was attended by over 120 people. Two of the attendees were a senior couple who own 220 acres of land that they cash crop. One of their three sons, who lives here in Ottawa, wants to buy the farm to earn income to subsidize the money that he earns as a self-employed filmmaker. Mr. Speaker, I wonder if the Liberals can explain how it is fair that selling their farm to their son would cost them significantly more than if they sold it to a multinational corporation, say like McCain's.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Agriculture.
Mr. Speaker, our government acknowledges the importance of farmers for our economy, and that's why we want to ensure to take the appropriate steps. I participated on working on this file. We listened to farmers and met with agricultural stakeholders. I can assure you that we will take into account all points of view in our plan before putting it forward.
Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes.
Mr. Speaker, Ontario farmer Mark Wales wants to know why under the new tax rules it wouldn't make financial sense for a farmer to sell to his own children as opposed to an unrelated third party. Mr. Speaker, these Liberal changes are a direct attack on the family farm and future generations of farmers like those in my riding of Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes. Mr. Speaker, how is that fair when the Finance Minister's family company in Barbados is left untouched?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, let me be very clear. We've always said it, and as we review the comments we've received from Canadians, we want to make sure that intergenerational transfers of businesses or of farms are not impacted. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Abbotsford.
Well, Mr. Speaker, this week Canadians were dealt two major body blows. First, the Liberals shut the door on further consultations on their cold-hearted, mean-spirited project to bash Canadian jobs and middle-class Canadians. Then a second body blow, the $15 billion Energy East pipeline, with 15,000 middle-class jobs cancelled due to Liberal interference in the environmental review process. So, Mr. Speaker, why have the Liberals abandoned middle-class Canadians?
Yeah, why?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, I'm glad that the member has asked the question because it gives me a chance to remind him of the economic activity and the jobs that have been created by pipeline approvals over the last 2 years. Actually, more than 22,000 jobs have been created, and many of them, by the way, in his own province of British Columbia and really across the Southern Prairie. And it's also important to remember that steel will come from a company that's headquartered in Regina. So the combination of job creation, economic development, and good jobs for the people of Western Canada.
The Honourable Member for Abbotsford.
Well, the Finance Minister has been artfully dodging questions about his own foreign tax shelters. Turns out that exactly a year ago, his billion-dollar company, Morneau Chappelle, was registered in Barbados, where he only pays tax of 2.5%. Yet he's asking Canadian small businesses to pay tax at a rate of 73%. How do you spell hypocrisy? Again, to the artful dodger himself. Can he tell this House whether any of his proposed tax increases will actually apply to him?
Yeah. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, as I mentioned, the Minister withdrew from the company before assuming his role. He has always been transparent and fully compliant. I want to reassure the member opposite that we will always stand behind our entrepreneurs. We've kept taxes the lowest in the G7. We know that entrepreneurs contribute to the prosperity of this country. The fact is, Mr. Speaker, There are some inequities that need addressing. We made a commitment to the middle-class Canadians to fix the tax system. We're reviewing the comments that we received from across the country.
And Strathcona.
Mr. Speaker, caribou are an iconic Canadian species, but to survive, they need an intact ecosystem. In addition, many Indigenous communities rely on the caribou to survive. A 2015 federal assessment found that 81% of remaining woodland caribou are in decline and projected to fall another 30%. The key identified reason for the decline is a loss of habitat to forestry, to energy development and wildfires. Can the minister advise when range plans for protection of caribou habitat will be publicly released?
The Honourable Minister for the Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank the honourable member for her question. We are absolutely committed to working with provinces, territories and Indigenous peoples on the protection and recovery of Canada's species at risk, including caribou, in a timely manner with robust recovery plans based on the best available science and traditional knowledge. We are working with provinces and territories on the range-specific plans for boreal caribou by October 2017 deadline. This was agreed upon by all parties as laid out in the 2012 Boreal Caribou Recovery Strategy.
The
Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, the generalized mistrust of Canadians towards our security agencies is a direct consequence of the lack of real-time oversight and accountability. The government was brought before the court by environmental activist groups that accuse it of spying. Even Citizens Watchdog failed in its task by rejecting the complaint and imposing total secrecy on the matter.
C-59 does nothing to fix these problems but pay lip service to them. So when will the minister truly take steps to bring in real-time oversight, fix these problems, limit CSIS's excessive powers, and truly protect Canadians' rights to peaceful protest?
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, in fact, the details of Bill C-59 have been examined by the most eminent experts in the field, and every single one of them has said that this represents a major step forward in terms of transparency, scrutiny, and accountability, and including real-time oversight in the creation for the first time of the Office of the Intelligence Commissioner that will examine activities of security agencies before the activity is undertaken, as well as having them reviewed afterward.
The Honourable Member for Pontiac. Mr. Speaker, the 60 Scoop is a dark and painful chapter of Canada's history. Concluding an agreement is an essential step towards reconciliation with Indigenous peoples. Among the considerable harms experienced, there's the loss of language and culture for those who were taken. Can the minister update this House on efforts made to come to a national solution? The Honourable Minister for Aboriginal Crown Affairs. Mr. Speaker, this morning I was very proud to announce that an agreement in principle was concluded. This is an important step for resolving this litigation. We are resolving these matters as well as other collective legal proceedings similar to this one. Even though this does not conclude the chapter of the 60 Scoop, we are committing to dealing with harms that were committed in the past.
Lakes Brook.
Mr. Speaker, the cancellation of the Energy East project is just another example of Liberal meddling. By changing the rules mid-process, the Liberals are telling Canadians, don't buy Canadian oil, buy from foreign dictatorships like Algeria and Venezuela. Much better. When will these Liberals stand up for Canadians and not foreign despots?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
The Government of Canada did not change the rules. The principles that we announced in January of 2016 would have been exactly the same rules that would have applied to Energy East. And the principles that we used to make decisions in the case of the Trans Mountain expansion and the Enbridge Line 3 led to approvals that will create thousands of jobs and billions of dollars of economic activity, particularly for Western Canada.
The Honourable Member for Haliburton, Kawartha Lakes Brock.
Mr. Speaker, first, the $35 billion Pacific Northwest LNG project, cancelled. Then, the $5.4 billion Northern Gateway pipeline, cancelled. Then, Nexen's Aurora LNG project, cancelled. Now, the $15.7 billion Energy East project, cancelled. Enough is enough. Changing the rules midstream is not right. The Liberals are sending a message to investors that Canada is a hostile place to invest. Why are the Liberals supporting foreign oil dependency while discouraging investment right here in Canada? Enough is enough.
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, the Nova Gas Pipeline, 3,000 jobs approved. Line 3 replacement project, 7,000 jobs approved. Trans Mountain expansion pipeline, 15,440 jobs approved. Support for the Keystone XL pipeline, 6,440 jobs. That is an impressive total of job creation and economic activity. We're very proud of that accomplishment, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, Energy East is dead because of the Liberals, and they are celebrating it. They say they want to help the middle class, but this job-creating project has been killed. The company said that after serious analysis and new regulations, we are abandoning this project. Mr. Speaker, how can the government be so proud of a project being abandoned that would have been good for the middle class and created jobs in Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, all throughout the country? The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Of a project abandoned. We're happy that we're creating jobs in the energy sector. And we understand that the energy sector is a driving force in the Canadian economy, and that the natural resource sectors, forestry, mining, oil and gas, have been fundamental to the building of the Canadian economy and will continue to be. If we don't have a regulatory process that carries the confidence of Canadians on the 3 pillars of economic growth, environmental stewardship, and Indigenous participation, our history would be the same as the sorry history of the Harper government. We can do better. We are doing better.
The Honourable Member for Souris Moose Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday TransCanada announced the cancellation of the Energy East pipeline, to the dismay of my constituents in Moosomin, Saskatchewan. Energy East was expected to create thousands of jobs, many of which would have been in Moosomin. Now, due to the Prime Minister's blatant lack of support for the Canadian energy sector, this pipeline has been cancelled and hundreds of job opportunities have disappeared overnight. When will the Prime Minister apologize to the people of Moosomin for his failure to champion this job-creating project?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, the Enbridge Line 3 project goes right by Moosomin. More jobs will be created. And not only that, Mr. Speaker, but Evraz will be producing hundreds of kilometers of steel to support these projects. Why don't members opposite join us on this side of the House in our support for a dynamic energy industry for Canada?
The Honourable Member for... I'm sure the Minister appreciates the coaching that he's getting from the other side, but it's preventing me from hearing the next question from the Honourable Member for Windsor-Tecumseh. I'll let her proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My office has received numerous calls from persons living with disabilities and their advocates expressing their serious concern over the delays in the government's plan to table a new Accessibility Act. I'm sure the new minister would agree that Canadians have waited long enough for comprehensive legislation. When will this minister provide the public with a clear timeline for when Canadians with disabilities can finally see this government table the Accessibility Act?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for the Minister of Sport and Persons with Disabilities. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I would like to thank my colleague for her involvement in this file. The government has made commitments towards handicapped persons to tabling this law. That was part of the mandate letter from the Prime Minister. We consulted nearly 6,000 Canadians throughout the country. The conclusions will enlighten this new law. It's being developed quickly, and it will be tabled soon.
I invite my colleague to work with me on this file in the future. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Member for New Westminster, Burnaby.
We owe an enormous debt to our nation's veterans, and the men and women who have served our country deserve our gratitude. That's why Canadians set up a network of veterans hospitals, including George Derby Veterans Hospital in Burnaby, BC. But changes in the funding model have meant reductions in funding, and this is profoundly hurting veterans and seniors at George Derby. So will the minister come and meet with the residents and their families at George Derby? And will the government end the funding crisis so that veterans get the care that they so richly deserve?
The Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
The member brings up a very specific case, which I am not fully briefed on or aware, but I will tell him I would be happy to meet with any concerned veterans and their families at any time. So I will work with his office, Mr. Speaker, to make that happen. In the meantime, on the issue of funding for our veterans, we have so far put some $7 billion into funding for our veterans and their families. And I'm very proud yesterday, Mr. Speaker, that we had the opportunity to deal with a joint suicide prevention strategy that brought together all parts of our armed forces, the Department of National Defence and Veterans Affairs, to help our veterans and their families with a doc.
The Honourable Member for Calgary-Midnapore.
Yesterday, TransCanada announced that they had had enough of Canada's, quote, unwelcome policy environment and uncertain approval process, and cancelled the Energy East pipeline project. This will cost Canada thousands of jobs and billions of dollars. One expert said that there is, quote, something deeply dysfunctional in Canada, forcing companies to look elsewhere to invest. Why do the Liberals continue to make decisions that hurt Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
We continue to make decisions that recognize the importance of the energy sector in Canada, particularly in Western Canada. And we were very pleased to make the determination that the Trans Mountain expansion was in the national interest because of the 15,440 jobs that it creates, because of the expansion of export markets. We're not comfortable sending 99% of our exports of oil and gas to the United States. We have opened up now the Asian market, and we also understand the importance that environmental stewardship, Indigenous participation, and economic growth.
The Honourable Member for Saskatoon-Grasswood.
Mr. Speaker, TransCanada was forced to abandon Energy East after this Liberal government changed the rules halfway through the game. So foreign oil wins, and who loses? Canadians. And Canadians lose big, Mr. Speaker. $56 billion in energy projects that have been cancelled thanks to Liberal incompetence. Why are the Liberals punishing Canada's energy sector and the thousands of middle-class jobs who depend on it?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Speaker, I'm very glad to know that the member from Saskatoon is interested in job creation, and he also will know that there have been thousands of jobs created in Saskatchewan by decisions that have been taken by this government. He will also know that Evraz, which is the producer of hundreds of kilometers of steel that will go into these pipes, is giving additional employment opportunity for people in his own province. I invite the member to join with us in our support for the energy workers right across the West, including in Saskatchewan.
The Honourable Member for Brandon-Souris.
Mr. Speaker, Canada produces some of the most environmentally and socially responsible oil in the world. But now this Liberal government is making it easier to purchase oil in Saudi Arabia than it is to produce it and purchase it in Western Canada. So, Mr. Speaker, will the Liberals admit that their politically driven changes to the National Energy Board are driving investment out of this country and only deepens our dependence on more foreign oil?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Speaker, my fellow Manitoban knows that there are jobs being created in our own province, that the approval of the Enbridge Line 3 expansion will create many jobs, I'm sure also in his own riding of Brandon. And he knows that the economic activity that will come from these pipeline approvals will...
Just one second. 1 second. I'm sure the minister appreciates the help he's getting, but I think answering the question on his own. So if we can just hear it down, then I'll be able to hear it as well. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We're very happy to have approved pipelines creating important jobs in the energy sector in Western Canada. We believe that natural resources continue to be a major driver of the Canadian economy. Job creation, investment in our communities is exactly, I think, a combined goal of all members who sit in this House.
The Honourable Member for Don Valley East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, earlier this year, the Prime Minister, along with a number of ministers of the Crown, travelled to Iqaluit to launch the Inuit Crown Partnership Committee with the leadership from the Inuit Nunangat. The committee's intent is to advance the shared priorities of Inuit and the Government of Canada, including the high incidence of tuberculosis in the Inuit population. Est-ce que le ministre au service autochtone peut...
Will the Minister of Indigenous Services update this House on work accomplished up until now through a partnership with the Inuit?
Mr. Speaker, permit me to thank the member from Don Valley East for her very important question. As a member of the Inuit Crown Partnership Committee, I was very pleased yesterday to join in an announcement that we will be establishing a task force for the elimination of tuberculosis in Inuit Nunangat. That will be the mandate of this important task force. Mr. Speaker, it's simply intolerable and tragic that the rate of tuberculosis in Canada's Inuit is 270 times the rate that it is in the Canadian-born non-Indigenous population. That is why we are going to take bold action. We will be working with partners amongst Canada's Inuit leaders, provinces and territories, and we will work together to eliminate tuberculosis in Inuit.
The Honourable Member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, Manny Rosario, a small business owner in Oshawa, employs 55 people and makes major investments in our community. Enterprise Air was planning, and I say was planning, the first daily scheduled charter service into Oshawa from Buffalo. Now that the Public Safety Minister is closing down our local CBSA office without any prior consultation, it's going to make this much more difficult. With the Liberal small business tax increase and with our local CBSA office closing, the Liberals seem fixated on making communities like mine less competitive. Mr. Speaker, how is that fair?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, CBSA makes decisions with respect to the distribution of their business services across the country according to a business plan that reflects the activity in the areas where the offices are located. And if there is a need for consultation and engagement, I would be happy to make sure that that is provided.
The Honourable Member for Cloverdale, Langley City.
Mr. Speaker, prior to entering politics, I spent 32 years working in national parks and national historic sites for Parks Canada. During that time, I saw firsthand the dedication of Parks Canada staff in both good times and bad. With the recent wildfires in Western Canada, Parks Canada experienced its most significant environmental emergency in the agency's history at Waterton Lakes National Park. Could the Minister of Environment and Climate Change please update this House on how Parks Canada managed the incident and the next steps?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
I'd like to thank the member for Cloverdale Langley City for his question and for his long service with Parks Canada. Our thoughts are with those impacted by the Keno fire, which caused significant damage to the Waterton Lakes National Park. I'm very pleased to report that thanks to extensive preparation and planning and a focused response from Parks Canada, the damage to the town site was limited and there were no human casualties. I'd like to thank our Parks Canada's world-class firefighters, local firefighters, and emergency workers, and commend all of our park staff under the leadership of Superintendent Ivan Thomas for their superb management of this very difficult situation.
The Honourable Member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, the crisis facing Rohingya people in Burma, which we consider a genocide, continues, but action at the UN Security Council is being blocked by China. This is tragic, but it's not much of a surprise given the treatment of minorities in China, be they Christian, Tibetan Buddhist, Uyghur Muslim, or Falun Gong. This government has talked about its desire to engage China. So has the minister spoken to her Chinese counterpart about the Rohingya crisis, or is this another case where they are ignoring human rights to appease the Chinese state?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The responsibility for ending the persecution of the Rohingya falls squarely upon the shoulders of the Commander-in-Chief, the military leadership in Myanmar, and Aung San Suu Kyi. On Saturday, September 30th, the minister spoke directly with the Commander-in-Chief. The minister said to him directly that violators of human rights must be held to account, humanitarian access to the region must be permitted, and that the Annan report must be implemented. And on Monday, Canada's ambassador to Myanmar joined 50 other foreign representatives for a visit to the Rakhine state so they could see firsthand what is happening.
The honourable member, l'honneur député de Terrebonne.
The honourable member for Terrebonne. Mr. Speaker, remember that last winter, a Rio Tinto ship was stuck in the ice because of the sad state of federal icebreakers. This week, an internal report revealed that the situation this winter is such that it could threaten Quebec's port activity. Thousands of jobs, billions of dollars in economic spin-offs, and nothing's moving within the government. Davy is offering to lease icebreakers as part of the Resolute project. Is the government going to finally act, or is it also stuck in the ice?
Secretary to the Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Mr. Speaker, I've had the opportunity, and in fact, I've had the privilege to meet with our men and women from the Canadian Coast Guard, from Vancouver Island all the way to Prince Edward Island, and I can tell you that our men and women expertly maintain our fleets, that this government is dedicated to providing new vessels to the Canadian Coast Guard, including a polar icebreaker, and that we're working with partners to make sure that we provide the services that Canadians expect. This government will always make sure that the men and women of the Canadian Coast Guard have the tools they need to do their job, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Terrebonne. Mr. Speaker, the federal government doesn't have 1 cent for jobs in our regions, but the purse strings have been loosened for the Governor-General. It cost $53 million last year in little trips and little canapes. God save the Queen, Mr. Speaker. And afterwards, the government has the nerve to tell Quebecers that there's no more money for our dairy farmers and that getting cell and internet service to their regions costs too much. Is that what we call being royally ripped off?
Un moment, s'il vous plaît.
1 moment, please.
Okay, je vais laisser répondre.
I will let the parliamentary secretary respond. But before allowing the individual to respond, I would remind the members of the House that when one refers to the Queen or to the Governor-General, that a certain amount of respect is required, and one must be careful in how one addresses those figures. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, the presumption of the question is false. We are investing in Quebec's regions. We're investing throughout Quebec and ensuring that they are able to get connected, and there are other subsidies that are available. We are creating jobs in those regions, and the numbers today show that we have created, since our election, 437,000 jobs throughout the country. We have the lowest unemployment rate since 40 years, Mr. Speaker. The honourable member for La Pointe-à-l'Île. Mr. Speaker, Statistics Canada tried to camouflage the decline of the French language by presenting census data smack dab in the middle of summer and muddling the numbers to mislead the public. If we add up the results for francophones, allophones, and anglophones in Quebec, we get a total population of 121%. Why is the Government of Canada skewing linguistic data to make Quebecers believe that French can grow and survive in the rest of Canada? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Immigration. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our government and Canada's position is to support the two great language communities here in Canada, both official languages at the heart of who we are. We are always there to support both official languages with the Official Languages Commissioner, with the Language Advantage Immigration Program to increase the number of people who speak French throughout Quebec, and with our Court Challenges program, which will ensure that people who want to defend French are supported throughout the entire country. Thank you.
For Nunavut.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is for the Minister of Transport. While touring my riding, I heard concerns from many constituents about the high cost of living in Nunavut. Food, equipment, and transportation are all extremely expensive, and we rely heavily on air transport for our goods and services. Transport Canada has proposed new regulations affecting duty time that could make airline operation and our cost of living even more expensive. When finalizing these regulations, will the Minister take into account our unique circumstances and consider the impact these changes will have on Northern Airlines and Nunavut? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Transport.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank the honourable member for his question and for his continued advocacy for the people of Nunavut. And I know he also supports improving aviation safety in Canada. We do recognize that the North relies heavily on air transport for the movement of passenger goods and as well as essential services between communities. We are analyzing all the submissions as part of this review, including some that came from the North, and we'll continue that conversation as we move forward. We understand. Thank you.
And that's all for today. Thank you. Tabling of documents? I'm going to wait till everybody. Honourable Parliament, the Honourable Member for La Salle-et-Mort-Verdun.
Mr. Speaker, I rise on a point of order just to correct the record. I misspoke a moment ago. The unemployment rate represents the lowest rate of unemployment the country has seen in 9 years. The 40% figure, Mr. Speaker, is actually the highest rate of job creation over the past year.
I believe that's debate, but thank you for the update.